everyone. My name is Bobby Gutierrez. Thank you all for joining us for our 9th episode of Cowboy Coffee with Meeker Alumni, a podcast created to help reconnect Meeker High School alumni with former classmates, teachers, and friends while following our current Meeker High School student athletes, their sports, and activities. Today's February 15th, 2022, and I'm joined in the studio created by Lucas Turner in the Rio Blanco Herald Times building on the corner of 4th and Main Streets in downtown Meeker, Colorado, by fellow hosts Hallie Turner Blunt from the class of 1995 and Dale Dunbar from the class of 1978. And our studio technician is an Otis High School alumni, Rich Klinglesmith from the class of 1994. Go ahead, Rich.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. Okay, we record these episodes and then we later upload them onto our Facebook page, Cowboy Coffee with Coaches, and start sharing it around from there. So please check that out on Facebook. And this episode will air later. Again, welcome everyone. Thanks for being with us today. Our special guest with us today is Lenny Klinglesmith, who has graduated from Meeker High School in 1988. Welcome to the podcast, Lenny.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You graduated more than 30 years ago. Maybe tell us about that. First, tell us where you were born.
I was born right here in Meeker.
Right.
Yep. So, born and raised. Been here my whole life. Haven't left very much. Went to college for a while, up to Laramie. But yeah, born in 1969.
Okay.
Grew up on ranches in the valley. We kind of moved around. My folks were actually alumni as well. They graduated Meeker High School in 1959.
And maybe tell us who your folks are.
Yeah, Lowell and Loanne Klinglesmith, my parents.
Okay.
Yep.
And your mom's maiden name would have been?
It was Schultz.
Okay.
Yep, Loanne Schultz. Ivo and Winnie Schultz were her parents, and just talked to them today about it a little. They were the first freshman class in the old high school when it was first built. So it was brand new to them. It was the new high school.
1955.
1955. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were the first freshman class to go through there, and my brother and I followed suit. We're both born here in Meeker, and yeah.
We were doing a little survey. You can't say that anymore, being born in Meeker.
Yeah.
But okay.
Did the Schultz homestead here?
You know, I don't know if they homesteaded. I know the Burks on my grandmother's side, Winnie Burke, and the Burks on Piance Creek. I believe that the first white child born on Piance Creek was a Burke.
Right.
And you'd have to ask them a little more about the details on that. But yeah, a lot of history here.
Yeah, and came over with the CC camps or something. The Schultzes were both involved in that.
Yeah, and I think the ranch my mom grew up on was a CCC camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what is CCC camp?
When they, following the Depression, wasn't it?
It was like a conservation.
The Civilian Conservation Corps.
Yeah.
Okay. Did not know that.
Yeah. What FDR started, huh?
Yep. That was one of the Depression New Deal programs.
Right. Yep. So.
Okay, so you graduated in '88. Who was a principal in high school when you graduated?
I think it was Jim Hanks.
Jim Hanks.
Yeah, Jim Hanks when I graduated, I believe. Yeah, we had a couple changes there, but yeah, Jim Hanks and quite a few of my classmates stayed around actually.
Okay, and who were some of those?
Who are some of those? Your brother Coley and I, we kind of grew up together. He got me started in the wrestling in first grade. So he came to school with all these cool medals, and I wanted some. So he got me into the Pee Wee wrestling with Pat Sullivan and them, and of course your dad, and went from there. But Kelly Sheridan, Travis Anderson, and Gene Scritchfield, grew up with him too. Jimmy Burke was my class. Casey was a couple of grades ahead of me. Anyway, there's quite a few. I'll probably forget some of them, but quite a few of my classmates ended up back here in Meeker.
And how many were in your class, Lenny?
Oh, gosh, I think there was like 40. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, not too many.
Yeah, not too many.
No.
And what all were you involved in high school?
Oh, I guess we did a lot of 4-H, with our cattle operation. As far as school, played football and wrestling, basically. I was too slow for track. I was the guy they faked the ball to in football, give it to somebody that could run faster. So, we had a lot of good times.
And how long have you been in Flag Creek?
Gosh, I think it was about 88, about the year I graduated. We moved up Flag Creek. Well, that's not true. On the ranch we're on now was 88. Mm-hmm. We actually went up Flag Creek to a different ranch in 1977. And then we sold that ranch and moved up the valley and to the ranch we're on right now in 88. So.
I can remember seeing the LK Charlets all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my folks started in them in, 1965 or 6 or something like that. Yeah, a long time ago.
And continue with that?
Yeah, we still run some. We raise our own bulls for our program and sell a few. Mm-hmm. So works out pretty good for us.
You mentioned going to school in Wyoming and studied. What, did you get a degree?
No, I never did actually get my degree. I went up there for 2.5 years and a business deal where my dad was running some cows for another guy and he couldn't. We had to buy back some cows. Anyway, a business deal fell through and I came home mid-semester or mid-year, I guess, to kind of run those cows for a while. Mm-hmm. Went to Mesa State for a semester, which was a good decision. I met my wife Jackie down there.
Oh, there you go.
Things worked out for some reason. Did a semester there. I still needed like a year of prerequisites. My advisors in Wyoming were really good to me. I got in all my animal science and meats courses that I wanted. Mm-hmm. He let me. Maybe he knew I wasn't going to stick it out. He let me get all those classes I needed, and I just never went back for the prerequisites. So.
You were a little bit modest about being the guy that was so slow that they faked the ball to you, but I think you went up there on a wrestling scholarship after winning 2 state championships, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yep, I did. I didn't stick at it very long up there.
It's a different deal in college.
Yeah, I'm an outdoors guy, and just all that time in the classroom, and then a weight room, and then a wrestling room, and then back to I needed some air. So
Need to be outside.
It was time for my career to be done and move on.
Well, good.
Yep. So.
And so now you're back. You're married. You said you met your wife Jackie. You've been married how long?
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jackie's over there in the background grinning at you.
Yeah. I think it was 1993, so do the math on that.
Okay.
It's almost 30 years.
Huh? Almost close, huh?
Yeah.
Coming up?
Yeah.
Okay. And from that, you have 2 daughters?
2 daughters, yep, Lila and Lorianne.
Okay.
And they're doing well, helping us on the ranch.
Also alumni?
Yep. Also alumni, yep.
Good.
Yeah, they're doing well, so.
And they go on to college?
Yeah.
From here?
Yeah, they did. Both of them went to Mesa for a while, and Lorianne's about to finish up. She's trying to finish up online. And Lila's actually going to transfer down to Weatherford College in Texas. She wants to go through their cosmetology program down there. So
that's interesting.
She's headed down there sometime this spring. It starts in May. So she's looking forward to that. And she likes the sunshine. And
there you go.
So she's smarter than the rest of us, I think.
Lorianne likes the agriculture and the ranch and went on a rodeo scholarship. Is that right?
Yeah, she did. She rodeoed up in Wyoming because it was actually closer to hit those rodeos, and she was the state champion breakaway calf roper up in Wyoming. So we're proud of her for that.
For sure.
Yep. Lila's in the volleyball team here, and they did really well. Ended up 3rd at state twice, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did really well. And it was Lorianne was with Ellie, and then they both had a successful senior year rodeo, didn't they?
They did.
Yep.
Both did really well.
And the ranch seems to have, I don't know a lot about ranching, but diversified enough that there's plenty to do for you guys and your daughters and, other people working on the ranch as well. So it's nice to have them around.
It is really nice. So, because there's a lot of different aspects. We have a hunting program, and then we try to sell some horses too, buy young horses, train them, resell them. And then we try to implement a pretty intensive rotational grazing system that works in conjunction with the Parks and Wildlife on their goals for the wildlife management, deferring pastures and different things like that. So it keeps us busy on a horse, keeping cows moved. Seem like we're every other day. We got to move some group somewhere.
Somewhere.
So, yeah.
Do your folks stay here all winter?
Yeah, they do.
Do they still?
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe I don't know if it's that Burke blood in my mom. They don't leave. They don't want to go anywhere too bad. So
and still work all the
tough,
time.
and they like to work.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just workers. So, yep. No, works out good.
And your dad was on the school board, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he served on the school board, probably back in the 70s, I suppose it was. Yeah.
And what are you involved in now?
Oh, I've been mostly trying to run the ranch, but they did recently put me on the stakeholder advisory group for this wolf reintroduction. So we're working through that process. That's been interesting.
Maybe kind of tell us or kind of update us on where that is, or kind of what you do on the committee and where that's kind of going.
And how you got selected too. I'm curious as to how they did the selection for that.
Yeah, they tried to select a diverse group, and
They
tried to,
being who?
Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
Yep, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So when the proposition passed, it states what's to be done, and they're supposed to reintroduce them by end of 2023, and requires them to form these committees, hold public hearings, all those things. And so anyway, then there's a technical working group which is made up of people in the Northern Rockies that have been involved with wolves and livestock conflict and wildlife management and those kind of things. They're more scientists and academic people, but they're from Montana, Oregon, Wyoming, Idaho. So they're on the technical side, and they say this works, this doesn't work. Then the stakeholder are Colorado representatives that are going to have a stake in this. And so there's several ag representatives. There's some outfitting representatives. There's defenders of wildlife. There's the National Wildlife Federation representatives. So it's a diverse group across. There's some county commissioners. And so the goal is to make a plan how they're going to be managed. And it's interesting because there's a wide gap in the views, and it's a pretty hot topic. I mean, pretty controversial topic. So we just did finish making, and so our goal, our responsibility is to make recommendations to the Parks and Wildlife Commissioners. And they'll make the final decision. So Parks and Wildlife will write the plan and send it to the commissioners, and they'll make but we're supposed to recommend what we think should be in it.
And what kind of deadlines are you working with?
I think by August they want to have the first draft of the plan to the Parks and Wildlife Commission so that they can go ahead and finalize it. And then when I say finalize it, the first draft, and then it goes back out for public comment and more hearings. And then I don't know if they'll reconvene us to address it some more, or if they'll just go back after the public comments and make the second draft and the final draft. And they're aiming to have that done by like May of 23, so that they can start the reintroduction process.
But you got so many moving targets right now, too, don't you?
Yeah, and we're just now going to start getting into the management. We've been spending a lot of time on the compensation plan for the damage to livestock producers, and which
has already started, kind of.
Which has already started, yeah. So we need to get that kicked in soon, but it'll still probably take a year before they get it finalized. Right now, they're compensating them according to the old plan that deals with bears and lions losses, but the wolf one's going to be a little different, I believe. So we spent a lot of time, but I'll have to say the recommendation we put forward to the commission was a really good compensation program, a fair one, I believe.
And how was it received?
From the commissioners?
Yeah.
That hasn't gotten to them yet.
Okay.
We just barely got it.
Just got it.
Yeah, here
Okay.
just a couple weeks ago, we all finally took a vote and decided on what our recommendations were, and it was like, I don't know, 70% were in favor of the same thing, 70% of the committee, something like that, roughly. So that was good. Now we're starting into like conflict minimization, deterrence to keep how you protect livestock from wolves and keep them apart so we don't have troubles. And then we're also going into management as far as how it can affect the wildlife and how do you manage wolves, what populations we're looking at, when do you intervene and do management procedures. And so that's going to be a tough topic, but we're going to start diving into that. And then we just got thrown a curveball. So wolves have been delisted nationwide for a while, not a long time, but I can't remember what date it was. But now a judge just relisted them, but it's not across the board. It's kind of confusing, and I don't have all the details yet. So I think I have a meeting on Wednesday next week. They'll probably explain it to us. But Great Lakes regions are going to go back under protection. I think Colorado, Oregon, Washington. I think Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, nothing changes.
That's what I heard, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But how it affects us, because if it puts federal Fish and Wildlife in charge of the reintroduction, then it might take it out of the hands of Colorado. Oh. And I don't know if they'll go ahead with it or not. So there's a lot of questions about how it affects Colorado. So we'll learn more next week.
Yeah, lucky that we have people that will go over and serve on a board like that, because it had a huge
well,
impact.
It seems like a lot of time, and but obviously it's you have a big interest in it.
I think it's pretty important for our community.
Without a doubt.
You know, we have a energy, ag, and big game base for our economy. It seems like those are the big three, and it could affect two of them: the ag and the big game hunting. So, a lot to learn on that, because I hear a lot of different information from, big game animals there to it doesn't change anything, but then some people say they disappear. They think it changes their behavior quite a bit. The ones that do kind of survive, it moves in different spots. So we got to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you don't have all this meeting and stakeholders and all of that, and get the information to the public prior to the vote.
Yeah, that was a tough deal, because it seemed like a crazy method where the biologists and the wildlife professionals couldn't have an opinion. Mm-hmm. That's frustrating. So,
yeah,
I'm afraid it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good way to manage wildlife, to put it in the hands of the entire public.
The voting public, yep.
They sure should have a say at hearings, let their opinions be known, and and develop policies with their input in mind. But taking the Parks and Wildlife officials out of the equation and putting it strictly to the vote of the lay people, I mean, it doesn't seem like a good management, because they decided in 2004. Parks and Wildlife decided that there was just too many people in Colorado
to do it.
That it's tough, and it might not be fair to the wolves, because there's I think the stats are roughly 5.7 million people in Colorado, and I think Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana combined have 3.7 million. So we have 2 million more people in Colorado than all three of those states combined. And so the room for them here, in my opinion, is just going to be tough. So
for them and everything else.
For them, yeah. Because, I mean, hard for them to run someplace without, and they're so territorial. It's going to be interesting with the hikers, and all the dogs are so territorial towards other canines that I don't know how that's going to, with all of the hiking and they're introducing them on the West Slope, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
They don't know where that line is. So, and they've said that. It was interesting. There was a lady from Montana that's dealt with him for 40-some years. And she just flat said on one of these videos, she says, "Oh, I know you're putting them on the West Slope, but they're going to be everywhere. They're going to be on the Eastern Plains." She said, "We had a paired den in a subdivision in Montana.
Oh, my word.
A gated community, but there was enough deer outside of it that they raised their pups right in the subdivision." So.
Yeah, and those are the things probably that, like you said, unless you talk to somebody that knows, the information's not out there to the public. Right. And so until we learn the hard way.
Yep. So.
What other changes? I mean, that's a huge change and a different thing. But over the years in agriculture and on your ranch, what other changes have you think been significant?
Well, personally, but I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I think we've done a good job of learning to work with other people. I think there's a better relationship between the Forest Service, the BLM, and the Parks and Wildlife people, that just from a land management standpoint, because I guess I've kind of changed my outlook. I am a cattleman, but I kind of now view myself as more of a land manager. And the cattle are one tool, the wildlife are another aspect of it, the water, the irrigation, the whole thing. And I don't know, I've enjoyed visiting with all these people, because they all, each entity has a different set of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting to me to see how you can work with all of them for the larger goal, because from a landscape scale, there isn't one entity that owns or controls all the different aspects. A lot of the wintering grounds for wildlife is BLM, and it's also, grazing land and wild horse land. And then a lot of the deeded land is transition habitat for wildlife, and it's spring and fall country for the livestock. And then a lot of the Forest Service ground, is the summering grounds for wildlife and the livestock. So just being able to work across all those landscapes to try to make it, multiple use like it should be. I think it's been enjoyable for me, and I'm really fortunate that the individuals I get to deal with, I feel like I have a really good relationship.
Oh, good.
Get them in here. They may say something different. I don't know, but I just sure appreciate them, and that's one of my pet peeves that I keep. That even at this meeting, I'm like, you need to give your local people in each area a little more credit because they know that area, and I see it in the agriculture. I can talk to somebody in Nebraska that's a colleague of mine. It's totally different. Everything,
sure.
The things they have to watch for. Oklahoma, known people that have moved to Oklahoma and they get in some wrecks because you have to manage for fescue foot and different things down there that we aren't aware of. And then you talk to them about brisket disease in cattle and how about high, PAP scores because of high elevation, and they don't know what we're talking about. I'm like, oh well, you have to have certain genetics to go to high elevation, or their hearts fail on cattle. There's certain lineages that you just can't take that high. They can't take that elevation. So back to the wildlife.
I'm learning a lot tonight.
Anyway, I'm going to ramble on here. But anyway, each area, and even each area of Colorado, southwest Colorado is different from northwest Colorado. So I'm driving that home, and I think our local people need to be given a little more credit and a little more say in all of these decisions. And I feel for them. Let's shout out to the Parks and Wildlife guys because they just can't hardly win. They do something for the mule deer, then somebody else is mad at them for doing something else. So they can't. It's hard to please everybody. So.
Yeah, and that cooperation, I think, amongst all the entities, you're exactly right. I mean, the battle's going to be tough enough to preserve and keep our, the land the way it is. So cooperation and working together is huge. And then networking, like you said, to learn. Other people have dealt with it. Don't reinvent the wheel all the time.
Right, yeah.
That's something that obviously you guys have done through the years is continue to have a successful ranch, and that's an accomplishment in and of itself, and so continuing to cooperate.
Yeah, and I think it is huge. You got to keep learning, but the people that came before us, they learned an awful lot. Yeah. That, 80, 90% of what needs done, they already know. Yeah, we might be able to come up with some new technologies, some new things, and keep tweaking things and making them a little better, but you can't, the base is still sound, in my opinion.
And technology, what are some of the technologies that you use or that has changed and you use now, internet or cameras or?
Yeah, I mean, the access to information, obviously, like we all have, so you can learn a lot more. You can study different genetics. But then even like these cell phones are just, they've been a godsend that you can, I've got a Theodolite app, so it's a photo app that you can take range monitoring photos with, and it time stamps it, date stamps it, and GPS stamps it. And then you can return to that same spot every year, take photos, so that you can see if your range is improving or if it's declining, and where you need to say, look, this place has gotten hit too hard for 2 years. This year we need to rotate different. We need to fence this water off so they don't camp here. Different things like that.
That's taking the job of like what used to take 5 DOW officers doing range transects. That does in one little click.
Yeah, I think so. So there's, those things help a lot. Obviously, the side by sides have their pros and cons, but they allow us to get around faster and know what's going on.
Do you use drones?
I have one sitting in the house that I can't fly yet. But
okay.
I got a young guy here in town that's getting pretty handy with him, I guess. He said he'd give me some lessons, so I'm going to get him to give me some lessons when I get a minute. But I think they will be handy, maybe locating cattle, different things like that. Then there's like this virtual fencing. It's called Vents that I'm looking into that may have real applications. And it's a collar you put on their cattle, and it's kind of like this dog fencing, but you can program in your pasture boundaries. And as they get close to it, it'll give them a tone. And then and I don't know all the details, but then if they get too close, it'll give them a mild shock. And so it may, and so you can deter them from different ways. So
like poison or anything, huh?
Yeah, and if it really works, and it can be affordable, and you could remove a lot of fencing, I mean, that would be better for the range, the wildlife, and everything.
So is it a GPS or a satellite base?
I
or
believe
how's
it is, and like I say, I just kind of heard about it.
That's kind of interesting.
You know, the NRCS down here, the conservation district. I mean, with Callie Hendrickson, she's been to the she knows a lot more about it, but I need to get to one of those presentations. But it sounds like there's a lot of neat applications, and I
think it'd work for non-resident hunters.
Maybe.
Okay, so when they buy their license, okay, let me just put this around your neck here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or resident ones, I guess we shouldn't.
Yeah.
See all these guys.
At least you can locate them once they get lost. Huh? Yeah.
And where do you run hunters at?
We run right out of our ranch there, and so we do a Ranch for Wildlife program with Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
All right.
And so they give us some freedom on season dates and a certain number of vouchers so that our hunters don't have to apply and into the drawing process. Mm-hmm. And in return, we provide quite a bit of public access through a drawing. So we do there'll be like two antlered elk, 2 antlered deer, 2 doe deer, and 18 cow elk that we just put into public drawing, and then we guide them, and the whole works for them on our deeded ranch.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then they give us a certain amount of private tax or vouchers to sell for our private hunters that we can make money off of.
And the public tags are not guided, right? Is it?
They don't have to be, but we do.
You do?
Yeah, we guide them. We offer it, and everybody takes us up on it.
Uh-huh.
So the antlered, we are just like a paying hunt. It's fully guided, meals, lodging, the works. Mm-hmm. And then the cow hunters and the doe hunters, they have the option of staying at our lodge. They pay us a small fee for the overnight, and they can buy meals from us if they want. We provide them a guide if they want a guide, and they all take us up on it, and we help them go kill theirs and retrieve it, and the whole works. Mm-hmm. So it's been pretty successful.
Good.
Yeah.
And do you same hunters over and over? Do you new hunters every year?
We've been really fortunate. We've had pretty much the same hunters year after year. There's a few of them that we'll have to that do like in every other year. They alternate out, but we have a couple of 2 or 3 groups that have been coming for a lot of years. I don't know how many, but maybe a decade.
So do you need to do a shout out to get a hold of you if they want to come hunt, or do you have hunts available?
Yeah, we're booked up for next year already.
Okay, well there you go.
But yeah, we don't ever turn anybody away. So
that's a pretty good testament to a successful program then.
Yeah, we've been real fortunate.
Good.
So yeah, we've been really fortunate, and there seems to be a lot of demand for hunting still. I had this theory that a lot of the hunters were an older generation, and that the younger crowd were not as into hunting. It was more about wildlife preservation, but I think the demand is just through the roof from what I hear. And I think Parks and Wildlife, I think they're only meeting about half of the demand. I mean, the amount of license they issue, there was only meeting half of the demand for the wild, and
amount
people
of people
want to eat wild game now. Yeah, and I should put a shout out for our out-of-state hunters. The statistic they told me at one of these meetings that blew my mind was the fact that I think of the total license sales of Parks and Wildlife, they bring in like $112 million, and that's deer, elk, moose, all the licenses. Of that $112 million, I think they said $87 million was out-of-state elk tags alone.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's another thing on this wolf deals. We need to protect that elk.
How much do the wolves pay for their tags?
Yeah. So they tell me one wolf needs about 20 elk per year. So you can do the math on that.
That's a huge impact. I mean, not just to ranchers, but like you said, to the hunters, the Parks and Wildlife, to everybody involved.
And that doesn't count the lions that eat the elk and
that's just
all the others. That's just the wolf coming in. So, wow.
So,
Well, we appreciate your time. Have any other questions? Something want to get in? You got a funny story from growing up here? Something you want to?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I guess I don't have a lot of good stories. I just give a shout out to this community, everybody in this community. I really, I love it here.
Yes.
Grew up with a lot of good friends, and I don't see them all very often, but it's nice that when I do, it's like it was just yesterday that we were together and visiting, and I think.
And has your class had any reunions?
Oh, we had one a while back, but it's been quite a few years. I can't remember which one it was. But
Yeah, almost 30 years.
we got enough of us here that we get together, see each other at a roping or a sporting event or head to the brewery or
There you go.
something. And I don't get out much, but anyway, I don't know. I just really appreciate small town America. I think it's really important, and this is one of the best, in my opinion.
I agree.
Well, we're really glad that you're on that commission. It's glad to have a voice from a local
Well,
thing.
thank you. We'll see if.
Congratulations.
I hope when
guess.
it's all done, I can still show my face around here.
Yeah.
So that we get something done that's good. But
Good.
it's interesting to see. It's a whole different dynamic between this side of the mountain and the other.
Sure.
Yep, a whole different. So, and I guess I will say I don't know if we get it done, but there's some people from the slope that want to help bridge that divide, that urban-rural divide that we've got going that's so bad. He's a CEO of the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and he's reached out to me and would like to work with us, bringing some young people over to work on the ranch a little, do some wildlife improvements, and talk to them about how important private land is to wildlife. And I'm pushing that. That's a big, I think it's critical that we keep a lot of this space open. We need places for people to live too, but we need some open space and for the wildlife and the agriculture and the whole works. So hopefully we can put a project together with him and
I just went to that zoo here for the first time. State volleyball was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
cool place.
yeah, I need to go.
Cool
He's
view.
offered me a tour. I just haven't got a chance to get over there. But like he's a really good person. Came over, spent a couple days with us, and we toured around our permits and our ranch and looked things over and talked about different things. So
Yeah, that seems like a great idea to get people actually to come over and see it and see how you do things. And
yeah, I think they're just not educated, and there's a lot of propaganda out there that isn't true on all sides, I think.
yeah,
So
Not just agriculture, about everything.
It's across the board, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. But
yeah.
fortunate to live in a good spot.
Indeed.
Yep.
Well, again, thank you very much for joining us.
You bet.
Good luck the rest of the year. Are you going to make it out to the state wrestling tournament?
I doubt if I'm going to make it. I don't know. Is it next weekend or is it?
It's
this
coming
weekend.
Out. It's coming
Oh,
out.
it's this coming
Yeah.
weekend.
I see a bunch of little white and black calves up there. It looks like you might be kind of
exactly.
busy.
Yeah, and one of my guys has to take off for Kansas, so I think I'm on duty.
The good thing is I did see that it was being broadcast on KRAI, so
Good.
you can.
Yeah.
Good.
And
KRAI, and we'll have some live updates on Cowboy Coffee with Coaches. And
Good.
So yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Get my daughters to get me hooked up.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
There
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot for coming.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks again. Take care.